Imagine being a nanny in one of the most talked about households in the world. Every move you make is watched. Every word you utter is scrutinized. And yet, behind palace walls, secrets are kept so tightly that even those closest to the family remain in the dark. That's exactly what Lauren Khumalo, Archie Harrison's nanny, has now admitted. The truth surrounding Archie's birth was anything but ordinary. And her revelation has reignited the very rumors Meghan Markle and Prince Harry fought so hard to dismiss. But before we continue, please subscribe, like, and turn on the notification bell for more updates. So, what really happened behind the velvet curtains of royal life? Let's unpack this confession in a way that will make you feel like you were standing right there in the palace nursery. The whisper that became a roar. When Meghan Markle first announced her pregnancy in 2018, the world was electrified. Media outlets raced to cover every detail, from her maternity outfits to her carefully staged public appearances. But almost immediately, whispers began to circulate. The bump looked different, sometimes larger, sometimes smaller, even slipping during public outings. Some laughed it off as conspiracy theories. Others, they weren't so sure. Fast forward to today, and Lauren's quiet confirmation has added a startling layer. Staff themselves weren't told much. They were instructed not to ask questions, not to press too hard, and to follow certain protocols that felt unusual. Doesn't that sound like the very beginning of a story you'd expect in a Netflix thriller rather than a royal household? And here's the kicker. When even the nanny is left scratching her head, you know something is up. The unusual protocols nobody talked about. Lauren described how certain practices didn't align with what you'd expect when caring for a newborn. Staff weren't allowed to handle certain routines directly, and instructions were often vague, bordering on secretive. Imagine working in one of the most prestigious jobs on earth and yet being told, essentially, do as you're told and don't ask why. For most of us, that's the equivalent of being in the office, noticing your boss's calendar full of mystery meetings, and being told never to ask about them. Human curiosity always kicks in, doesn't it? But in this case, silence wasn't optional, it was enforced. So, was this simply about protecting privacy? Or was it about keeping the royal image intact, even if it meant bending the truth? Why the secrecy matters. Let's be real, everyone values privacy. But when you're part of the royal family, your personal life is never just your own. It's tied to centuries of tradition, legacy, and, frankly, public money. That's why Meghan's alleged secrecy feels heavier than a mere personal choice. It touches on trust. Think about it. If staff closest to Archie were told not to ask questions, what does that say about the atmosphere in the household? Suspicion grows not because of what's said, but because of what isn't. In a family already plagued with rumors, silence becomes gasoline on the fire. Could this be why the surrogacy theories never died down, despite Meghan's repeated denials? The bigger picture, control and image. Here's where it gets even more fascinating. Meghan and Harry have long spoken about feeling trapped by the royal system. But Lauren's story flips the script. Instead of being victims of royal control, Meghan and Harry themselves may have been the ones enforcing silence and control inside their own walls. It's like when a friend constantly tells you how much they hate gossip, but then you discover they're the ones spreading the juiciest rumors behind closed doors. That contradiction raises eyebrows. And in Meghan's case, it raises the question. Was the narrative carefully staged from the very beginning? Lessons from the palace walls. Here's where the story goes from royal gossip to something that hits closer to home. How often do we, in our own lives, go to great lengths to control how others perceive us? Maybe it's curating the perfect Instagram feed. Maybe it's pretending everything is fine, when it's not. Meghan's alleged secrecy about Archie's birth is like the royal version of filtering reality. And just like in our own lives, the truth has a funny way of bubbling to the surface. Lauren's admission is a reminder that authenticity, even if messy, often lands better than polished perfection. The curiosity that won't die. So, did Meghan really use a surrogate? Did she simply want to protect her privacy? Or was there more at stake, like the royal image of stability and tradition? Lauren hasn't given us all the answers, but she has handed us enough breadcrumbs to keep the public hungry. And maybe that's the real power of her confession. It forces us to ask, what else do we not know? If even staff inside the palace were kept in the dark, what chance did the rest of us have?